Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by ModApp. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I am joined by Sergio Cardona. He is our lead AI designer in the Creative Strategic Business Unit. Sergio, thanks so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Before the call, we were talking about the title of this episode, Design Disrupted. An old school creative goes all in on AI. And I love this title because I think every creative can really see themselves in that. Their creative talent first is amazing. And maybe it's because I'm not a creative myself, but I really respect people who are able to take concepts and ideas and visualize them and bring brands to life through really, I don't know, clean ways of describing that brand without any words. And then for creatives who are copywriters, that's just as amazing. So I have a ton of respect for the creative industry. I've always loved working with amazing creatives, but I know that AI, my area, can sometimes feel like a threat. So I'm excited to learn more about what you're working on as a lead AI designer. And before we jump in though, let's hear more about you. Tell us about your background and role here at ModApp today.
Great. My name is Sergio Cardona. I started my career at FIT many years ago, got introduced to packaging, fell in love with it. And to your point, or the title of this show is destructive, right? As a creative, we always find different ways to create destructive, right? You want to show off on shelf. So call it AI, call it a new color palette, call it a new font. We always trying to shine on shelf when it comes to packaging. So my career started at FIT, then slowly graduated to the process of scaling as a creative, from a junior designer to a senior designer to a associate design director, and now as a design lead for Model. So I got into AI really early on, right? Right when Midjourney started coming out and you were able to prompt images and you were getting really amazing results. Not crazy, but enough to say, hey, there's something here. Right. So really started diving into what this is doing. But before I get into AI, I think I know I think I want to talk also about 3D because I think that was almost my transition to AI. So as a package designers, we're training in the traditional platforms like Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. And as things progress in our industry, you started finding the need for different tools like After Effects and motion graphics. 3D was part of that transition, right? I was being very curious, like all creators are. And I was like, what else is out there to kind of help me tell this story? Because at the end of the day, when you do packaging or any art form, what you want to do is just convey or tell a story with different medias. And AI is just one of them. And that's how I started moving from design to 3D, motion, and now AI, which in a way or another sort of combines all of them in a different format, right? Not so in an application way, but in many applications through prompting or creating fast ideas.
I like that you compared using AI as a different way to tell the story. And it positions it as a tool, but also a contributor playing an active role in what the output is. What AI tools have you used to help tell that story? And then what have been the outcomes or outputs from that use?
Well, I think like everything started with Midjourney. I think that was the first original platform that was able to get in there. And then how I started utilizing Midjourney to tell the stories was mostly to get my ideas faster, right? In most cases, you were able to say, what would this look like, right? You had to draw it, take a picture. I was now able to prompt this and get a result within seconds. So generating ideas fast was key to be able to convey an idea, right? Sometimes a sketch might not be interpreted the way you wanted it to be, right? Because sometimes it's missing colors, missing so many elements. Through Midjourney, I was able to craft the idea faster, right? And then you started graduating and the platform started growing, right? No longer you are just prompting for the help of just creating outputs. You are able to control the outputs. That kind of started driving me into ChatGPT, right? When you now you are using a tool in a more conversational manner to generate ideas, right? Through copywriters. One of the things that I love to do with ChatGPT is that sometimes an idea doesn't have to be a visual representation. It can be a story, right? So one of the ways I use AI is to say, what would be a poem if what this brief would be if it was a poem,
Oh
right?
my
Because it's how you solve it. And I mean, we are visual people, right? So a lot of designers are like, oh, I can do it better. I don't like the results. It just feels very cookie cutter. It just feels like there's one designer inside the machine. And it's right. It's trained to do something, but not to do what we are trained to do. There's many years of that. So, but what was really good is to translate sort of your emotions or your vision. So I say, what would this look if this was a poem? And then it just paints a different picture, right? I'm always a big fan of Strangers and Strangers is the packaging design firm that they approach design through storytelling, right? And I think that's something that we do really well also at Mata. What's the story behind it? So once you have a poem, you see the challenge to a different lens. It's no longer A to B, but a picture of how you can achieve a result through poetry to music, whatever can create that output. So once you have that through ChatGPT and you get the answer, you get a different kind of view of what the problem is and a way to solve it.
I love the examples of people using AI to really drive their creativity and how in when you're walking through your use of Midjourney and ChatGPT, and you said this earlier, you're the you're directing. You're not just asking it to do the work for you. You're going back and forth. You are in control of that output and really helping even the machine to elevate and push progress toward telling that story, identifying core challenges, identifying where value is going to be created, resonance with the target audience. Are there other areas within the creative workflow where you have found benefit to using tools to maybe solve blockers or make things move faster? I know one thing that pops into my head, I've seen a lot of apps that are like in versioning or in editing. Are there other ways in which AI is not just pushing the creative forward, but also helping us save time and operate more efficiently?
For sure. I always try to tackle my process through AI through the filter of how can I eliminate things there, let's say cookie cutter or time consuming or not creative, right? For example, the other day I was able to create a more complex script to utilize in Adobe Illustrator, right? When you create presentations or you create are for the client, you always tasked to create PNGs to showcase with the client, right? Able to create a script that takes it into Photoshop, crops all the extra elements, saves us the right color profile, and puts in a folder in a matter of seconds was significantly improving. Basically, we usually do about 40 pins, right? A PNG for a presentation. It would take about half a second per PNG, right? If you do that throughout the day, that's time consuming and it's not creative. By creating this automated script in Java, which I'm not a programmer, but I was like, you know what? Let me just figure out if I can program this and able to create that script. Now I'm able to output my presentation in a faster and more efficient manner, which is saves more time for me to do the things I love, which is create and eliminates all that cookie cutter process part of the presentation and creative.
You're doing something that sounds like it's very natural to you, but it's actually quite profound in how you approach building that solution. So you started with a challenge, and I love that you labeled it. I want to replace what's not creative. I want to make more space for myself to do what I do best, which is tell stories, solve problems, be a designer. And then even though I mentioned there are a kabillion apps, and there are a kabillion apps, and you probably tested them, that can do things like that, that can help you with resizing, help to do the output. One thing that I have found, and I'm curious if you found the same thing, a lot of AI apps are really over engineered. And sometimes AI as our friend And the right solution isn't, hey, is there an app for that? But it's what's the minimal way I can start solving this challenge using technology, and AI may be a part of that, whether it's helping me code, whether it's embedded into an existing technology we already license, and let me test and learn from there for this first iteration, where I do feel like I see a lot of people kind of get trapped in the app versus not app cycle. Like, well, I tried that app, it didn't do as good as me, and they write it off. But I love that you started with the challenge and you went to a minimally viable product. And now you're starting to already see time savings. And I'm guessing kind of starting to see opportunities for this to grow.
No, for sure. And I think the biggest issue with AI, at least in the creative field, is that there seems like there's always a different app every week, right? So it's very hard to keep up. And also, I feel that it doesn't meet the expectations once you jump into it, right? Because it's really easy to kind of streamline the process and say, oh, look, I did this and I got this results. You're going to try it. And what you don't see is the amount of variations they go through before they give you that beautiful result, right? And that can
Mhm.
get very frustrating and costly. And sometimes you're like, you know what? This is not really that efficient. This is not solving problems, it's actually creating more problems. So part of the way I think about AI is not, let me, there's two different types of designers they're sort of moving forward. And I heard this the other day, right? There's the prompt designers, right? Most people that have an idea can prompt it, create some sort of beautiful outcome. And there's their thinkers and the storytellers, right? Now, if I can solve an issue through technology and tell that story, I can utilize AI to help me get there, right? Is it by writing code? Is it about, understanding or digesting the brief? Sometimes you get briefs and they're so lengthy, and you'd be like, you know what? Tell me the three more important things about this brief. And then let me start from there. Take out the keywords from this brief. So now you're realizing to completely tell the story, but help you through the process of creating that, to making sure that you brief is done in a more efficient manner.
Yeah, I really like when you break out the different types of creatives, and both play a really valuable role. And at ModApp, I think we're moving in that direction where not only do we want to create more time for us to be those strategic storytellers, but we also want to create ways that we elevate our clients as well. And so when we're able to comb out the stuff that isn't creative, be more productive, get them something that's beautiful and really stands out, I feel like there's that chain reaction of
Mhm.
inspiration. Have you seen that as you've begun to show people the output from AI? Either because we have a lot of parties we're bringing along internally as well with adoption, but what have been some of the reactions from clients or even internal stakeholders when you show them what's possible with AI and design?
Well, I think internally it starts with a layer of like amusement. How you got there, show me. And then when the client comes forward is benefits. Like we got here faster, and actually make them part of the process is actually very encouraging for them too, right? Because it's a partnership, and they're always very excited when you say, hey, we use this tool to kind of solve this issue in a more timely manner. So they know that we're being conscious with their time, and we are getting to the results sooner than later.
So we talked about using AI as a way to get to those ideas faster, elevate our storytelling and strategic thinking, as well as target those areas that are not creative, automate or do them differently and more efficiently in order to get a bigger, better, bigger being like richer, more immersive creative concept. What are some things when you look to the future, what you want to work on next? Where do you think there's the most need for AI to be? And what are you most excited about as we continue this journey into AI design and AI adoption and creative?
Well, I think the more integrated AI becomes for software. For example, Adobe Firefly is a great sample, right? It's not a platform that's just generating images. It's part of the process that you're doing with the programs that you're already familiar with, right? So being able to remove backgrounds the way it started, to add in more imagery to elements, or be able to create compositions faster. I think that's very exciting, right? Because it becomes your partner through the process, in the process that you're already familiar with, right? So it doesn't feel like you're in an external platform, is where you are and you've been for many years, right? As the Photoshop has upgraded, now it's just another tool that helps you get to the process faster. Where I think that, the future, I think more acceptance and more understanding that it's not here to replace us but to improve us, right? To be able, I see a lot of platforms now kind of working side by side with designers to say, what is the style design you have? Let's kind of create a AI around that. So if anybody wants that style, it's done with your style and not just, it's not being stolen from you, right? So you're able to connect yourself with an AI agent that helps you carry your style throughout. So anybody can leverage your design skills, be it illustration, photography, or music for that matter, and say, hey, I want this, but now done with the AI filter on it, and it helps you create it, and you get the benefits from it because you start creating art that people like, and it's not just being harvested out of the internet somewhere. It's actually come from a source. So that's very exciting in the future, that partnership between AI and creatives.
And I love that your focus is on that partnership lens because we hear a lot of headlines and there is hundreds of millions of dollars going into AI startups that their purpose is to replace roles. And they say that one, let me just pull up the name. One just ran a campaign that was titled Stop Hiring Humans.
Oh,
And
wow.
that feels so counterproductive. And they ran the campaign and it's public, so I'll just say who it is. It's Artisan, and
Okay.
it is looking at really sales, customer service, and why agents and robots are better at that role than people. And it reminded me of when Salesforce first launched, and their flagship campaign was called 1-800 no code. And I worked at a company that licensed the Salesforce platform. And then they got a lot of marketing people into the room and said, oh, now we can use this and we can do automations and all this great work without any code. And day two, we had to get 4 developers to help us execute the platform. Like there is just a reality that when a lot of these headlines, a lot of the media, when we're talking about these, is there a future in which some knowledge work, not even some, but a significant amount of knowledge work gets offset because, as Sergio, as you said earlier, it's not creative or it's not strategic or is highly repeatable. It's not adding a lot of value. Yeah, absolutely. Does it mean that full blown people are going to be replaced? I think it's a choice. And what you've walked through here in your journey is you've made a choice to evolve your role to include new skills, to include new technologies, and not just to be, oh, I can use this app to do that, not just an orchestrator of different apps, but to use the creative process, focusing on what is the challenge, what is the story I want to tell that's going to deliver the value. And then when I look at the tool set, what works best? Where can I start? Again, you're doing that so naturally, but I think it's a really clear path for not just creatives, but really anyone in a knowledge work marketing profession to take. And you have to make the choice to want to learn new skills. Uh, we have been doing the AI playground and reviewing hundreds of apps now. And that's been a very worthwhile exercise. While I just said, we shouldn't just be using apps, we shouldn't. But the people behind these apps are really freaking smart. Like there's a lot of value. So there's also going to be a lot of learning and a lot of creative thinking that happens after you try it.
No, for sure. And I think, when you mentioned that, is it going to replace us, right? And I think there's definitely going to be some shift in the way things are getting done, right? But at the end of the day, what makes us, I think, even as Mara, what makes us special is the people with the right tools, right? Because, like I say, anyone can just go in there and prompt, go into any tools and create endless amount of images in a small amount of time. Are they good? Are they telling a good story? Are you able to piece them together? What is the right information? So it's not about how you create them, it's about being able to distill them, what works and what doesn't. And also, at this stage, there's still a level of craftsmanship that still needs to happen. You still need to be able to take those elements and transform it into print media, right? That has different layers and complexities than just an image, right? There's print files that requires color separations, and AI still doesn't do that, right? So the technicalities and being able to know what works, I think is key, right? So, at one point the noise would sort of disappear and you still want to go back to the people that understand your brand and understands how to use the tools to get your brand story out there successfully, right? So I think yes, this for sure, more clients are going to be demanding more speed and faster results. And I think that's why us as designers, we need to be able to evolve and understand what tools are going to help us get there without sacrificing the craftsmanship because design takes time, right? Good design takes time. Now, if we remove all those extra elements that are not needed, or at least they're time consuming and not creative, we can have more time to actually craft the idea in a more efficient way.
Yeah, and that when we look to the future, we think about, yes, there's efficiency, yes, these are tools, but one of the things that you're also showing clients is that there's more that's possible now in the way that brands and designs tell stories and the way they show up that just simply wasn't possible. I know some of the things, one of the tools that you demoed for me when we first met was a simple voice agent that you had
Mm.
built yourself. But
Yeah.
it was so impressive. And you just said that there's a lot more layers when we translate digital images into print. And there's also a lot more layers that you uncovered going through when you learn more about motion graphics and different 3D objects. These layers can also be the fuel to additional agents, but it doesn't mean
Mhm.
it replaces you. It gives you more power to direct more tools and agents that continuously, again, solve challenges, elevate your strategic problem solving, and help clients start showing up for their customers and their audiences in ways that just before were not possible.
No, for sure. I think that the the way we approach the process has completely done a 180, right? We are now in an age where collaboration between humans and machine is critical for the success of ourselves and our clients, right? So if we put the right agent, for example, I even named it, right? Is a human desire to humanize AI, at least for me, is kind of like, what is the name? What is your story, right? I called her Cleo. Where did the name came from, right? So I'm started designing this ideal assistant through to through AI to help me with my process, right? So now it feels more human. And I think that's part of that story, right? My story, my graphic story, my packaging story is how is that agent now integrated into this new process that we're building?
Hmm. I love it. And that inspired some of the innovations that we're bringing to market, including, we're helping brands personify through other voice agents, whether it's in event apps or in games. We have some personified agents that are AI driven. And for us, the agents are taking away those repeatable tasks, and we're not running a campaign like artisan here saying that it's going to replace people, but it does give the brand an opportunity to show up in a really productive way for consumers, whether it's reminding someone of important milestones, letting them know when they're near an area that they have interest in and aligns with their values, or being able to find in the business to business part the right widget or application or compound that fits their exact use case, that is where it can really start to lead to higher quality outcomes that are also highly measurable while still showing up as a human, which, especially in B2B, that has been really hard. It's like salespeople tell you what you want to hear. We know that a lot of B2B companies have a high fall off then right after they close, and then 80% turnover, where AI is the assistant and personified AI, where it really makes people feel comfortable, gives them more exact answers. Of course, this is all done through, people like you who are bringing that storytelling lens and pairing it with high quality data that is integrated from the client and our systems alike. It is truly an orchestra that's being directed. It is not a one tool, a one system that is replacing. It's elevating and enhancing.
No, for sure. And one of the new tools I started playing with the other day is NAN. And I was thrown away
Mm.
by how now the integration of large language models and everyday apps like your email, um, sorry, I just left my mind, your email, your calendar, and all the stuff that compose your business now can be integrated through any system, right? So, I think that the AI is transforming not only the way we create outputs, but the way we kind of function throughout everything. And it's just a matter of like us understanding that it's just a different way of doing business, right? It's a different way to kind of presenting yourself out there and not in a scary way, right? Because most people are like, oh my God, this is scary. Every time a new platform comes out, it's like, oh my God, this is scary. This is the end. And it's not. It just improves everything you do.
Yeah. I think the key to success that you just hit on that NAN does is integration. And we're going to be having future podcasts, not just talking about NAM, but MCP, A2A. And this is, again, where humans come in first. Humans have to think about what's the creative solution, what is the baseline, the process that exists today, evolve that process, eliminate the friction, and then use these technologies to integrate so that you are the director. But also now it's specific to your business, your challenges, your consumers, and elevates that storytelling in a way that's really also elevating your brand voice and your values.
Yeah, and one thing that I like also is that it gives you a different outtake of what you were thinking, right? You come in with this idea, and all of a sudden a color palette, a shape, or something that unexpected, a happy mistake, you're like, oh, I was not thinking about it this way, right? And sometimes even those, let's call it mistakes through your prompt that gives you a different output might inspire a different outcome, completely different that you are, expecting the result was. So by integrating all these tools, you are able to kind of expand your reach in a more efficient, faster manner. You're like, oh God, I wasn't thinking about it this way, right? And it's just amazing what it's able to do.
I agree. Well, Sergio, this has been a great conversation, and we are at time. People want to reach out to you directly. How can they find you?
Well, they can go to LinkedIn and they can also find me at sergio.cardona@modup.com.
Perfect. And like I mentioned, we're going to be having more conversations on how AI can elevate insights, automate repeatable tasks, and help make your outputs more measurable and higher impact. We're really excited to bring more voice to the table who are in our AI adoption group, AI practice group, and council. And Sergio, thank you so much for leading AI design and helping us to advance how we use these tools to serve our clients.
Great. Thank you for having me.
If you want to hear more leader generation episodes, you can visit modapp.com, It is under the Vanguardian, or scroll down to podcasts. You can also find us on any of your favorite podcast channels by searching for Leader Generation. And until next time, Sergio, I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Thanks for being our guest.
Ciao. Bye bye.